All right, folks, to be respectful of your time this evening, I want to call this portion of the meeting to order, and this is the public hearing. The public hearing is called and hereby given notice that the City of Greer municipality, organized and existing under the laws of the state of South Carolina, will hold a public hearing for consideration of an ordinance to close a portion of the city-owned road known as Victor Avenue Extension pursuant to Resolution 6, 2019, April 23rd. Public hearing and is an option for those that wish to share concerns and opinions with council to be able to do that. We will receive and entertain those comments without question or reply. So you are able to come and to give us any view that you might wish to in regards to the item that is listed this evening, which is the potential closure of the Victor Avenue extension. What I'd like to do to determine how much time we will be able to allocate to the speakers is to take a quick survey of those people that might wish to speak, just to see how many that we are going to have in that regard. Okay, so we've got between 15 and 20 people that would like to speak. In that regard then, what I would like to do is ask you, if you would, to keep your comments to a reasonable amount of time, and let's set that at 3 minutes. I'm going to, I'll use a timer to help you keep track of when that is. And let's be mindful and respectful of others that wish to speak tonight in regards to your comments. So with that, if you would like to speak, what I'm going to do is ask, if you would, to form a line across the back, and maybe on this side where you can come under the speaker, under the screen right there. And what I will need is as a matter of record, will be for you to identify yourself by name and then give your address, if you would. And so with that, our first speaker, if you would. If you'll give us your name and address as a matter of record, the floor will be yours, sir.
My name's Donald Story. I'm here with my mother, Joyce Story. We live at 5 Mary Street. Obviously, it's an inconvenience. Everyone knows that. The issue that I mainly have is safety. If they close that road, everybody coming into that neighborhood has got to go by at least one, if not two parks. That's going to increase a lot of traffic around, a lot of kids. Personally, I work in Landrum. I would prefer not to have to go through town. It saves me about 15 minutes, but that's a convenience issue. My mother also is 78, several health issues. Her going to the doctor back and forth, that's a big issue, going actually through town as opposed to being able to go directly to the expressway and all. I don't know that it would matter in the case of an ambulance. I do know that it does matter a little bit when I take her myself to the doctor and all. So outside of that, it is a convenience issue, as I say, but that in and of itself is what it is. I'm sure you're aware of that. Hopefully y'all will consider the extra traffic that it's going to take around these parks and a lot of kids and all too. I hope that they did consider that. If at the end they decide they have to go, I don't know how much trouble it would be. I'm kind of new to this process. I would like to think that they would maybe consider putting a road in, on the other side of their property, coming from the expressway to McElreath Road. That may would alleviate that problem. But thank you very much for y'all's time, and I'll let everybody else speak.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm Mary Jo Garrow. I live at 202 Crestwood Drive in Victoria Hills subdivision. I would like to see a show of hands of council members who have actually driven out Victor Avenue Extension to see the area that's going to be closed and to see McElrath. It's nice to see that you've actually been out there. I appreciate that. I'd like to see a show of hands, people here are against the closure of the road. Thank you. Now, can anyone on the council tell me why the airport has requested this?
We're not going to make comments. You're welcome to speak.
Okay, well, that was my last thing, is I just wanted to know why the airport at this time had requested the closure, because it seems all of a sudden. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name's Joe Garrett, and that's my wife, Mary Jo, and we live in Victoria Hills. There's only 3 ways in and out of our community, from Victor Avenue down through South Line Street, out through the Victor Mill community, to South McElrath Road, to Old Woodruff Road, or either by the stretch of road that you want to close tonight. The City Fire Department protects Victoria Hills from fire, and they also respond first responders medical in partnership with EMS, and our public safety is already compromised through rail traffic from the inland port if South Line Street is blocked. That blocks the direct response or direct route from first responders. The premature closure of Victor Avenue Extension is going to jeopardize us in 2 additional ways. Number 1, we're going to have longer, slower arrival times by EMS and longer transport times from our community by EMS to emergency rooms. I verified with EMS that they respond to our community from Gap Creek Road off of 29, from Lyman, and from the Pelham location on Brockman McClellan. It's the quickest way in and out of our neighborhood. It's also the quickest way to depart from our neighborhood to Pelham Medical, Greer Memorial, and hospitals in Greenville and Spartanburg. And I can tell you that from first-hand experience on 2 different occasions, getting my wife to Pelham Medical. I've also watched EMS take people out of Victorian Hills recently, as late as April the 10th, in transport to Spartanburg. The stretch of road that you want to close is the only exit that minimizes travel through neighborhoods and maximizes it on major thoroughfares. The other 2 routes in and out are high traffic, and McElrath has unsafe conditions, particularly for a vehicle the size of medical transport. So in life-threatening medical emergencies, we're in jeopardy. We see this as a threat to deprive us of quick response time for arrival of emergency medical care and departure to receive additional emergency medical care. We've lived in that community for 38 years. A lot of the people that live around us were there when we moved in. So there's a lot of seniors. We have diabetes, heart conditions, prior stroke, high risk of stroke, arterial disease, cancer, pulmonary disease, and we have a quadriplegic in our neighborhood, just to name a few. So I'm here to ask you, please, consider other alternatives and do not close Victor Avenue Extension, because what you're doing is you're threatening the public safety and the residents there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Curtis Hill. I live 165 Victor Avenue Extension. Been there since 1962. I got a question. The city told me the reason one told that road there for them to, right? That's what I understand. All right, I bought my land out through there and down through there from the Dobson things over the years, to 8, 10, 30 acres, 60 acres at the time. Okay? When I bought it, when they surveyed it to the center of the road, and I paid for it to the center of the road, and I owned it to the center of the road. Okay, when Roger Milton come bought it from me, he says, look, Mr. Hip, I'm gonna tell you something, we don't buy roads and we don't buy power lines, you can keep them, we're gonna take you out of the plant and not pay you for it, okay? So there you go. So the airport don't own that road, me and the Burnside and the Dobsons own that road, because we bought it and paid for it by the acre, you understand? We bought the road and paid for it by the acre, and it was ours. And I don't see how the airport can come in there and close that road and they don't own it. They own the land on each side, but they don't own the road. And the state owns that road, and me and the Dobbs and the Burnside paid for it. And the city ain't never done a thing on that road down through there. No cover, ice cutting, no nothing. They've never done a thing. The airport's never done nothing to it. The state's done it all. If we have any kind of accident down there, you know who comes down there? The highway patrol. That road is used for the ambulances, the fire department, and emergency vehicles. CPW's got lines down through there. Bell South's got lines down through there. The cable feeds got lines down through there and right of way. The power company's got lines down through there and right of way. And I don't know how they can close a road that don't belong to them, sir. I mean, I'm telling you the truth. That's the truth. Now, I've got 15 or 16 houses right there, and the people works down there, go down that road and back and forth up it. On the other side of 80, I got 2 pastures with cows in them, 2 barns. I got 4 warehouses I keep my material in. At the end of Victor Hill Road on Daxter, I got 35 acres I keep cutting hay, and I haul it straight up down that road. I don't want to come up over that hay and go up 80 and around up Old Woodruff Road out through Washington Road. I don't think it's fair. I've been there that long, and I've helped the city before. I've given them land 3 different times to do projects on and get them so they can get another place in the city. I've worked in this city since 1960. I've done $1 million with sewer taps, water taps. When they put Sunnyside in the city, I put sewer and water about all of them. The people didn't have the money to pay for it. The government paid for my bathroom. They didn't have money to pay for the sewer. And because the people over there, I done it on the credit, let them pay me $50 a month. That ain't no joke. I've helped the city over the years. When they widened 29 right here, the city had to pay to have all the sewer moved. I moved every bit of that sewer off way down the back for the city. They paid me for it, but I didn't charge them a lot. I moved all them sewer and water lines also to widen way Hampton years ago. I have worked with this city and helped the city. I plumbed the city barn and I plumbed the city hall. I have really helped the city. I've been good to the city over the years. And you can let that man sit right there if you don't think that ain't true. He knows it. Thank you.
I love it. My name is Andrew Walker. I live at 225 Victor Avenue Extension. I am the last house that you will see before you hit Highway 80. I, on the regular, use that road as a transit means for my work. I'm an electrician for Langford Electric, which is based off of Trey Street in Greer. So I am one of the fellow employees and citizens that help keep the economy engine of Greer running. Closing this road will hinder a multitude of things. It will lower the value of our houses because one of the main issues that a lot of people have is the accessibility to be able to travel. And it will hurt the medical aspect too, because as you already know, and you can see, most of these ladies and gentlemen have lived to good prime ages in their life. And I would really appreciate and love to be able to see them to continue to live longer years by the means of, if they have a problem, to get the necessary help that they need as soon as possible. And closing that road hinders that. Like my neighbors, they're elderly, and I help them from time to time, and his wife has a lot of medical issues. And I would hate to see her pass away because it would take an extra 10 to 15 minutes for an ambulance to be able to get there. I figured the inland port is growing due to the airport as well as the BMW, and that helps our economy, and that's great because we all need jobs. And
And that's how Greer has grown ever since it started out as a farm and sold some land to a railroad company. And then the mills and the factories came in. I think that Greer is growing faster than what it can accommodate for. And we have to rethink how we are going to be able to change things just like this road in order for it to be able to be livable. Because even though we have always been an industrial city, we need to rethink of how we can also make it where the industries can coincide with the people. Because businesses should rely on the people, not people live by how the businesses grow. And that's all I have to say.
Hello, I'm Sharon Hutchinson. I live at 170 Victor Avenue Extension, across from Curtis. I've been in the medical field for over 40 years, and I'm not going to address that because these people have addressed that so well, but there's other places that I want to address. If they close that down, and McElrath is going to become a more used road. I don't know if you've ever been on McElrath, but it's this little narrow road that is not safe. That road has to be widened if our emergency vehicles are going to be up and down that road. Right now, they couldn't pass each other, it's so narrow. So that needs addressed. The tree loss for the expansion of the port, when they first put all those trees out there, it was to help to keep the noise down. Well, now they're cutting them down again, and the noise level already is increasing, but it will increase more as they cut more trees down to expand that area. So, I think that's about what I have to say. Thank you.
I'm Chip Bradford. I live at 217 Blue Ridge Drive. I guess I might be the only person here representing the cycling community. I've lived in Blue Ridge since 1989. I know and talking with the folks at Benchmark Cycle downtown, they lead 3 public rides from there each week. We estimate probably 150 or so cyclists minimum use that road. That is the only road that is available to us to get out to the whole Woodruff, Reedville area without getting on 4 lanes, which I served 2 terms on the long-range master plan, and bike paths and pedestrian was always part of those plans. So you basically would be subjecting cyclists to 4-lane roads and higher traffic and cars moving at greater rates of speed. Also, going down that road, I've never seen traffic roads, so I don't know if there has been any kind of traffic count to see exactly how many cars and what the effect would be to close. I know there are 2 churches right there, 3 if you count Old Victor Hill Baptist. And then talking with someone there, she feels like, that road was very important in her having a heart attack, getting to the hospital quicker on time. And I guess, would be against closing that road. Thank you. For the record, most of y'all know I will be moving to TR soon.
Hello, my name is Jim Way. I live at 201 Crestwood Drive in Victorian Hills for 41 years. I hope you know where this is, as we are not in the city. I'm here to protest the closing of Victor Avenue and Highway 80, at Highway 80. My main concern, although I have many, is EMS response time. I have coronary heart disease, a pacemaker, and a stent. If we have to call 911 for an ambulance, I know for a fact, according to a credible source, it will come from Spartanburg EMS on Gap Creek Road. The fastest route to my house is to come down Highway 80, take a right on the Victor Avenue extension. It should take approximately 2 to 4 minutes. If the road is closed, they will have to go on down Highway 80 to Highway 101, take a right, go up McElrath Road, which is a very narrow and curvy road. This will probably add another 2 to 3 minutes. I have heard that in the case of a medical emergency, that minutes could be the difference between life or death. For this reason, I urge you to not close this road. And I'd like to say that I hope you don't have a relative living in our neighborhood, or if you did, what would this mean to you? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sandra Lay. I live at 102 Crestwood Drive, and I too have some concerns. The council has heard many of our concerns on closing Victor Avenue extension. However, I have a few more concerns. I am sure none of us who bought our homes 20 to 40 years ago thought we would be facing the encroachment of industry into a residential area. One concern my neighbor has not addressed is the noise level. Our neighborhood already has noises from the airport. The airplanes are flying lower, and at times the sound feels like it will be coming through the window. Then the noise from the inland port. We hear noise of trailers being stacked and the beep, beep, beep of the machinery used to stack the trailers. And we get the noise from the trains as they move from the port. Now our neighbors will be getting more noise from the industry, which is wanting to move in on top of us. I'm sure that the council member, Judy Albright, can understand because she lived in that neighborhood. Lastly, the road closure and the industry so close to the neighborhood will devalue the prices of our home. Not to mention the property taxes, which will increase because of it being zoned as industry. There has to be a logical solution where the road will not be closed to our only outlet to Highway 80. One solution could be going down Highway 80 and going through the inland port's entrance. It's already there. It's like 1,000 yards from it. So that's one. Or they could put a red light there. And when the trucks are going back and forth, the light could be red and nobody will go through. When they're not moving, it will be green and we have access to Highway 80. Another one is having a bridge that goes over the road. So we can still get to Highway 80 and they can still go under the bridge. My last idea, and I have a lot, is to take the, I've lost where I was reading. The red light, yeah. Another is to cut an alternative road that would go beside of this road, or from McElrath Road to Highway 80. We all we're for economic growth, which will bring more jobs and wages to allow middle-class citizens to be able to own a home. We believe that the land at Victor Avenue Extension should not be closed and allow our neighborhood to remain confident that we can get emergency responses from EMS if we need it. Minutes are important when there is a heart attack or a stroke, and we are asking your vote to be no.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, good evening. My name is Reno Deaton. I serve as Executive Director of the Greer Development Corporation of the Economic Development Organization for the Greer community. I'm also a resident of Greer. I reside at 247 Cannon Street here in downtown Greer. I want to speak tonight in favor in support of the request to close the portion of Victor Avenue before you this evening. Greenville-Spartanburg International Airport has been a very good economic development partner. Since the creation of the inland port, by my calculation, we've annexed somewhere close to 200 acres in property into the city of Greer, which has supported a number of really fantastic blue chip projects that have created some great direct jobs, and I've lost track of the number of indirect jobs that have been created through the construction of all those facilities. Unfortunately, we've got a road that bisects two portions of that industrial park, and from an economic development standpoint, we'd be much better served to make that one continuous park. It's our understanding that Prospect would prefer the efficiency and the effectiveness of access to the inland port through one continuous park. Secondly, we also understand that Prospects prefer the safety aspects of limiting truck traffic to one single entrance and exit, to the existing entrance and exit at the inland port. Mayor and Council, thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Steve Roach. I live at 108 Ashland Drive. One issue I see with closing that road down is the neighborhood is the roads in the neighborhood are so small already. You cannot even pass each other on the roads in the neighborhood. You have to pull over in the other person's yard to even get through the neighborhood, as it is right now. What it's going to do, if they close this road, this road is closed, it's going to bring more traffic through the neighborhoods, which is already, cannot handle the traffic through them already. Ashland Drive has not been paved in 20-something years. This road just basically is falling apart. And if that road is closed, they're going to bring this through Ashland Drive. But cars are going to start going through Ashland Drive, which is already so small that you can't get through it down now. Also, I fill in for the pastor at Victorian Hills Community Church. He was not able to make it tonight. I am a fill-in pastor. It's getting so noisy already in the church. When you try to preach, you can't even hear the message a lot of times because of the noise that's going on in the neighborhood already. If this road is closed, there's going to be more traffic going through our neighborhood, and it's going to cause more noise to come into our church and into the churches in the neighborhood. Also, the property values in our neighborhood are dropping daily because of the noise and light and sound that's in our neighborhood. Our people in the neighborhood, most of them are elderly. On our street alone, everyone on our street is either 60 or above in our neighborhood. Most of them in their 70s and 80s. Most of them have health problems. But y'all need to consider the nature of what needs to be done. I work with a fire department. I'm a former fireman, former paramedic. That extra minute or two can save a life, getting to a house. If it's a house fire, that extra minute or two can help save a life. If it's a medical call, that extra minute. If it's a heart attack, that extra minute can save that life. I've seen it happen. I was a firefighter for 15 years and a paramedic for 17 years. So I know it can work. Y'all please consider this for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Hey everybody. I'm Charles McAfee, and I live at the corner of Foster Circle and McElrath. I have two concerns. First of all, I think I'm the oldest house in the neighborhood. It's the one with the big wraparound porch. McElrath, if you don't drive down it regularly, what you don't know is it's pretty much a one-lane road, okay? I live closer to the end where Old Woodruff Road is. When you turn onto that road, onto McElrath, you cannot pass a car right there. You have to wait for that person to exit the road before you turn in. People who are not familiar, if you don't live in that neighborhood, you don't know this. There is a ditch on both sides of the road that is getting worse, and even if you turn in the middle of the street and there's nobody coming, you can feel your car dip down in that ditch on the right side. That with me? Okay. So, but there's a lot of traffic coming in that way, and there's a lot of traffic coming in from the other side. My concern there is that, you know, my porch sits about 15 feet from the road. And it is safety concerns mainly. Like they said, there's a ditch on either side. Cars cannot get past each other. I think when you close the Victor Hill extension, or Victor Avenue extension, it is going to either double the traffic coming in on that side, or at the very least, it's going to majorly increase it. So that's my biggest concern. Secondly, is a little more selfish, and I say this because I bought that house in 2004, and I'm from Greenville. I got a great deal on it. It's an acre of land. It's an old farmhouse, and I said, I'm going to try to make this work. I've been fixing up that house for 13, 14 years, however long it's been. I don't know how much money I put into it. That's not the point. It's all been a labor of love, because quite frankly, I love Greer. I love the neighborhood. I love my neighbors. I love their pets. I love their kids. And, you know, I just don't want to move. Quite frankly, you know, if the inland port expands that far, it's going to decrease the value substantially. And my house has over doubled in value since I bought it. The neighborhood has progressively gotten better. And I would like to keep it going up as opposed to down. And I think that closing Victor Avenue and expanding the port is going to bring it down. Thank you.
Hello, and for people that don't know me, I'm Samuel James. My family's lived here for 330-something years. Somebody mentioned it started as a farm. My great-great-grandfather gave the land for the farm and the mills up until the 40s because he was concerned about people having a place to work and live. We all have a place to work and live, but our living is now going downhill. I see no appropriate value that we're going to collect from this extra portion of the inland port. Excuse me, I'll go back. I have cancer, so I'm going to lose my voice. That's why I'm drinking water. So if we actually have to close it down, the only functions are going to be McElrath. I don't really care who thinks. It's going to be McElrath Road where everyone's going. If you're going to close it down, there's one simple turn. Close down the other side of our neighborhood and the one in McElrath and make it a hard key entry. And I think everybody will be happy with the road concerns. Because if they have to come through downtown, and it just happens to be the time that they're unloading the train and it's sitting in Lime Street for 45 minutes, swapping the card key won't make a difference. Okay? Most of the things that I wanted to speak of were presented already, so it won't take me long. But we did no study of the traffic. There was no equipment there. I know, I have a master's degree in electronics from Georgia Tech. There's been no equipment on either road to do a traffic study. The other is I won't bother to start this, but I don't remember any annex hearings for our neighborhood to be annexed into Greer. And I've lived there for 32 years. My family's lived there forever. My father fought the city to not be annexed. It's been a long fight. Over 300 years, it's been a long fight for what we got. One thing it would be more of a concern, like I said, I have cancer, so I really have no dog in this fight until I have a grandson. And most everybody that's actually there has seen me and him walking up and down the streets. If you close this down, that's going to stop. Because the other traffic is going to try to go here because they're going to get tired of running into ditches on the McElrath. There are things that should have been done. The development of the first inland port was probably some of the poorest design I've ever seen by a developer firm, period. They made zero agreements for expansion. They made no acquisitions for expansion. They had no plans for expansion. Each time it's this. One of the people, I'm not exactly sure who, brought up there's a bridge. You have a natural embutment already there to put a bridge across. It's a nice, simple place to do it. And for everybody that's going to be here longer than me, I hope they don't do this, because the noise from the inland port moving up the McElrath is going to be substantial. And for you guys here, you need to go ahead and look to Spartanburg County for the city ordinance for sound. They haven't been in code since the ordinance, since the Inland Port's been here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Tracy Calloway. I live at 202 Timber Lane Road. I use that road daily. I am youth coordinator for Victorian Hills Community Church. We actually have two churches involved. I'm going to speak for Preacher Larry. You have People's Baptist Church and you have Victorian Hills Community Church. We have children. All that extra traffic is coming by both churches. And for the safety of our children, it's not a wise idea. The port is already in the church's backyard. As Brother Roach already said, it's almost impossible to get a full service without the noise. And then McElrath can't handle it, and then you're going to go down the side roads and come down Timber Lane. Then we've got the emergency response time. There's got to be a better way to address this than to close down that road. And I work at Country Day School, so that road is just, it would just cut so much time having to go through town. That's all.
Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Griffith, and I live on Lamford Street. I don't live necessarily right there at that road, but I do go to church at Victorian Hills Community Church. We have a lot of our members that use that way to get to our church. It's more convenient for them. And also, when we do a lot of stuff with our community at our church, and when we do like our yard sales and meals and that kind of thing, we put signs out, and that's going to help with our community a lot, because we get a lot of traffic from 80 that comes to our church, when we have special things to do. I also, my grandmother lives on Ashland Drive, which is right off of Victor Hill, or the road, sorry. And she's in her 80s, she's on oxygen. The whole, cutting on, or adding to the response time for ambulance and fire, that's a huge concern for me, because like everybody said, minutes could mean life or death. A lot of people in that area are elderly, and to do something to extend the time for emergency vehicles just doesn't make any sense at all. But like she said, our pastor couldn't, or like Steve said, that our pastor couldn't be here, but I wanted to be here to represent our church, because it's going to affect our church and our members a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Roy Marin. I live at 100 Timber Lane Road. At first when this thing, I heard about it, I couldn't help wondering if maybe this was the airport's revenge on the city of Greer to get back for past administration's attempts to annex the airport. But now I kind of get the feeling that the city is very much in bed with the airport on this deal, and could care less about people out in the county that aren't within the city limits of Greer. We've been there a long time, and we take care of ourselves and whatever. I certainly agree with everybody else's concern about elderly people and response times, and I won't revisit that again. My other question is this already a done deal? Is this meeting just a formality, or is our input going to count for something? I think most of the people here probably feel like we are powerless against the big guys like the airport, the South Carolina Inland Port, the City of Greer, BMW. These all have been good things for the area. But don't you think that some of the profits from the sale of the land ought to go to the residents that may be forced out of their homes or see their homes devalued by the noise pollution, and to be directly impacted by the increased traffic that is sure to come? So is this private industry that's doing this, or some government or quasi-government enterprise doing this? How would eminent domain play into this situation? There's certainly going to be increased traffic on McElrath Road Timber Lane Road and other streets by the cars that would have continued on Victor Hill Road to go to 80 or to town or other places, which everybody else is concerned about. Are there plans to use the now abandoned road on the north side of Victor Hill Road at the end of McElrath Road as another entrance to the current new building that's going up at the inland port? If so, this would be more traffic that might go up and down McElrath and maybe even along the remaining open portion of Victor Hill Road. I'm not sure what the benefit is in making this all one side by closing the road. The elevation on the south side of Victor Hill Road is much higher than the new elevation on the current construction site. Why not leave the road open to the public and build an underpass or an overpass for the inner site traffic, as somebody else already mentioned? What are the plans for the 10-acre site on the west side of McElrath Road and south of Victor Hill Road? How long will it be before they want the two houses on the south end of this piece of land? Why stop there? Why not just eliminate everything down at the creek, close Timber Lane Road at Whiteoak Road? And if that happens, we'll be forced to take the devalued price for our homes that they have caused to happen by the impact of the noise and industry moving in on a residential area. Or would we be enticed to leave by an offering of what it would cost to purchase an equivalent home in a less impacted area plus something for our troubles? I certainly doubt that would happen. So I am against closing this road for all the reasons that everybody else has mentioned. I'm on in years too, and I would appreciate an ambulance getting to me when I need it, and so on and so forth. So thank you for your time.
My name is Becky White, and somebody may have already said this. I don't hear well, so forgive me if I'm repeating something somebody else has already said. But everybody's looking at this from all completely different perspectives. My problem, major problem that I have is where I live. If I leave my house to go to Highway 101, I have 3 stop signs. If my dog has a medical emergency, I can hit Highway 101, go down straight down Victor Avenue. I don't even have to stop till I get to Highway 80. Pull out in that road, I may or may not have to stop at the traffic light on 29 at the vet's office. On the other hand, if that road is closed and that blind train is shifting back and forth, hooking rail cars, I'm going to have a dead dog. How many of you have pets that you love? That you really, truly love? If you've got one, I'm asking you to think about it on this level, on a human level. Thank you.
My name's Larry Paget. I'm the pastor of People's Baptist Church. Been there for 9 years. I sit back and listen to everybody, and I got in the back of the line because there's some things that I want to share. Like I said, I've been there 9 years. I live over in Pleasant Grove. When I get off of work at the church, I can go home and don't have to worry about the noise. But when I'm there during the day, from over to Port, and not only that, but I see numerous cars running up and down the road in Victor Avenue Extension. If you block off the highway there, we're really going to be on a dead-end street. And anybody and everybody can come down there. We have problems every now and then with somebody coming in the back of the church and, robbing people and things of that nature. Many of our people will have to use an alternate route because we have 3 families that live in Edmond. We have families that come from Moore, Duncan, Reedville, and all those. But they're going to have an alternative route, and many of those are older people, and they do good just to get to church. But this is going to put it even longer. We will not get the exposure, I'm going to use that word anyway, exposure. We have people that are members of our church that have joined because of driving up down that road every day. They were spoken to by the Lord, and they joined the church. Many of our people are elderly and really don't want to drive a long ways. I feel like this, and again, I feel like this was a done deal. I think this is just a formality where we can say we had a meeting to talk to the people. I think your mind's already made up. I believe it is. And I heard tonight that in the future, and you know this, I guess, that they're going to build another plant right adjacent to the church for the building of the motors for BMW. And that's really going to hurt us as a church. And you know, we talk about these people have given their lives for this community. They've worked hard. But all we're concerned about is development and money. It's the big dollar sign. It's the big dollar sign. If we get them in here, we can get more revenue for taxes and we can have more to Greer and other areas. I think that. And it breaks my heart. Because I'm not from Greer, but I love Greer. I've been here for 40-something years. My wife and my family lives in Greer, but I love my church. I love my people. And to hear them pour out their heart to me and crying and saying, what else is going to happen now? I don't know. The churches and the citizens seem like they don't matter anymore. And we've gotten away from that. I don't understand how we are in the county, but down Highway 80 is in the city. I don't understand that. And why this Victoria Hills is not in the city when everybody else around us is in the city. I know we're a low-income family, a Mill Hill family and all that, but these are hard workers. They'll have to give their houses away if it continues the way it is instead of getting the value of the houses. If you live there, it would affect you. Put yourself in their shoes. How would you feel? You see, I feel like if we had been First Baptist Church or some huge church, this would not happen because they would not ruffle any feathers.
Amen. Pastor, I need you to wrap it up. We're past the time.
Huh?
I said I need you to wrap it up. We're past our time.
But we have I've been praying about it, and we want right thing. I wish that this was a win-win situation. Again, I wish that we could move up and maybe have another road going to 80. I mean, Kurt sold the land for the airport, so I don't see any problem with that. And it would be a win-win situation, but this is a win-lose situation. And again, we got the majority of elderly people, and I pray that they would be considered in this decision. Thank you.
I'm Danny Gambrell. I live at 106 Hickory Lane. This gentleman said he was a fireman for 17 years. I've been a fireman for 40 years, retired from Greer. My main concern is I don't think that the city has thought about the situation of the creek. You know, there's a creek there on Victor Avenue, and there's a creek on Macklin. For instance, what if it floods? How are we going to get fire vehicles in and out? For instance, down at Second Baptist Church on Memorial Drive Extension, it flooded. It washed out. If that happens to us, we have no way of getting any emergency vehicles or any fire department vehicles to our services. And that's just one thing that I was thinking about, that I hope that the city, which I know most of y'all, and I know most of y'all know me, and I hope that y'all would take that in consideration as far as one of the situations that you're putting our community into. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Richard Coleman. I live at 1070 Gilmer. I've lived out there 10 years, not a long time. Got a lot of nice neighbors out there. I couldn't find anybody. And I drive that road 4 times a day now, every day. But it seems to me, and In the last 10 years, I've seen that place out there grow. I can't believe how much it's grown. Inland Port's really doing good, expanding. Seems to me that with all this revenue, you could come to a solution to avoid hurting the neighbors that lived there for years. It generates a lot of revenue. Build another road. All I have to say to you is right here beside this. You're the council of the city of Greer. The people of Greer. I guess we're going to find out pretty soon what side you're on. I hope you're on our side. Thank you.
I've already been up here. One more quick thing, because I forgot to say it. I'm Charles McAfee, 315 Foster Circle. I just want to point out that I think everybody can agree, including y'all. I know y'all studied traffic patterns since the inland port came in, but we already have a huge traffic problem, even in downtown Greer. With right here by the hot spot on 101 and Poinsett, okay? If a train stopped there, you got to wait almost, so I've had to wait 30 minutes before just to get across the tracks. That's crazy, okay? Now, what we're going to be doing if we expand the inland port is have even worse traffic. To me, it makes more sense to fix the problems we have before we add more, okay? That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Wasn't Highway 80 supposed to keep the traffic going around Greer? That couldn't go good?
That apparently concludes the public hearing. I'll offer one more opportunity for anyone that would like to speak that hasn't spoken before. We'll take comments, but no questions. If you'd like to speak, come to the podium.
I'm Paula Van Patten. I live at 710 Victor Hill Road, which is a little further down than Highway 80. But most everybody has lived on this side of Highway 80, and except for the man on Gillum Road. And we have issues too. We have the BMW train track that, you know, keeps EMS from getting out that way or it gets delayed. And also, we don't really have a problem getting to Highway 101 from out there. You know, kind of out of the way, but we can get there. But to go to Highway 29 or get to downtown Greer, we would have to go Highway 80 to all the way down to Highway 29. And, you know, and the BMW train also sits. It just stops and sits, just like the one at Line Street. And, you know, we have to deal with that. And we've dealt with that for quite a while with that train track. But that's all I have to say. I just want to represent the people on the other side of the road. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Todd Presley. I live at 143 Victor Avenue Extension. One thing that wasn't addressed by everybody that came up was, I remember when, I've been there since 1992, and I remember when the cow pastures were closed and put up trees, that those the pine trees were there to absorb an emergency landing. If we start tearing them down, putting up inland port buildings, airplane people, I mean the passengers, they're just not, their safety for emergency landing not a factor anymore, or something I'd like to find out something about. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we've extended the public hearing once. I'll do it one more time. Anybody else that wishes to speak that hasn't spoken yet? I'll offer a third time.
There's going to be 3 public hearings, is that correct?
No, ma'am. This is the only public hearing that we're allowed. Yes, ma'am. And a third time. All right. Yes, ma'am, we'll need your name and address as a matter of the record, please.
I'm Virginia Sumner. I live at 441 Chapel Road, and I too, like Richard and this other lady, I'm on the other side of 80. But I do travel that road, Victorville Extension, multiple times. And the railroad track, the B&W train blocks us in. They're building out businesses out there. We have to go down those little crooked Brookshire roads that the trucks are tearing up because all the businesses are coming in, which that's gross. But I've been there 45 years. And now, if you're going to close that off, we're going to have to go to those little crooked roads that are tearing up, the trucks are tearing up, or go to 80 and go to the left of 101, or go to the right to go to 29. And it's just not fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That concludes our public hearing this evening. Let me talk about procedures as we move forward here. As many of you related to tonight or referred to tonight, public hearing is a time where we will solicit comments from the public and entertain your comments in that regard, which we have done tonight. Per our ordinance laws, we will do 2 readings of the ordinance, and if you are with us this evening, you will notice in your printed agenda that this is one of the items that is before us this evening would be the first reading of ordinance number 13-2019, an ordinance authorizing the closure and conveyance of a portion of a city-owned street. There will be discussion by the council during both of those readings. It's in our best interest this evening that I share with you, both as council and as interested observers, that there is an amendment that needs to be made to the text of that ordinance, and we will not be taking a vote this evening in regards to that ordinance. So you're welcome to stay if you would like for the remainder of our meeting. We will entertain more information from the administrator in regards to the textual change that needs to be made to ordinance 13-2019. And I would suspect, given that information from the administrator, council will want to hold that over until we've got more information in a structurally correct ordinance in that regard. So just to give you a heads up, we appreciate your time, we appreciate your comments, and we will have time to consider those. If you will visit our website, you will see when this item goes back on the agenda for first reading, as I imagine it will be held over to a future meeting, and then there will be a second meeting following that for the second vote. So thank you for being with us this evening. If there are those of you that would like to leave, we will give you time to do that, and then we will move forward with our regularly scheduled meeting. All right, folks, we have concluded our public hearing, and I want to go ahead and move on to our regularly scheduled meeting. This was a regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting called and convened this evening, April 23rd, 2019. Having duly assembled, I'm going to ask Council Member Wayne Griffin, if he would, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and then an invocation for council.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for a beautiful day, Father God. The sun, the stars, the moon, they testify to your greatness. Now, Father, we would come and be a part of this meeting. Teach us to lean not into our own understandings, but in all ways acknowledge you, and you shall direct our paths. Father God, I ask you for a special blessing for our city employees, Father God. You will wrap your loving arms around them, protect them from all danger, seen and unseen. These are all the blessings we ask your precious Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Ms. Duncan, do we have anyone to appear in public forum this evening?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, council, we'll move to the minutes of the council meeting. The minutes from April 9th, 2019 are contained in your packet. Entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second? And a second. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert? Yes. Mayor Danner?
Yes. I'm going to ask a couple of folks to join me for a special recognition this evening. Our honoree, Ms. Joanna Hyde. I'm going to ask Joanna if she would come to the front. And I'll ask the administrator to join us as well. I'm not sure that it is politically correct to say that someone is an institution in our community because it makes you sound old, does it not? But young at heart, certainly, Joanna Hyde is known to us all, and I think universally appreciated, and has given tirelessly in her efforts to help us keep a living memory of the events of Greer. She has served on various different boards, helped us through some of our efforts in the downtown area, as well as in those hours with the museum and other events. And it is our loss that she will soon be moving to another community, but I have no doubt whatsoever that she will jump in with both when she arrives because she led a whole series of walks through downtown this past year, and so I know she is still willing and able to serve. And so we want to recognize her in a very special way tonight, and that is with the key to the city. So that whenever she sees that, she knows that she is welcome to return with a key to the gate to get in anytime that she wants to. And so we have the honor of presenting her with a key to the city that reads in recognition of her selfless work at the Jeannie M. Smith Library and the Greer Heritage Museum for preserving the city of Greer's rich history as both an author and storyteller, and for sharing her trusted counsel as a member of the city's board of architectural review. And with the Greer City Council, they hereby honor the late hire on with a key to the city on this day, April 3rd, 2019. Please join me in giving a round of applause.
I spent my life kind of like a gypsy, living in a lot of different places, and I lived the longest in Greer of any place else. So let me tell you that it will always feel like hometown.
I'm going to ask a couple of people as well to come join us. We have a certificate of recognition this evening, and I know we've got some folks from the Greer Development Corp here to accept that recognition, and I know Katie Allen is with us, and Katie is the representative. So Katie, if you will, step to the front here with your hardware there. This is a certificate of recognition from the city of City. Congratulations from being named the winner of the Silver Lean Award of Excellence in the South Carolina chapter of Public Relations Society of America. was presented to the Greer Development Corporation, and we are honoring you with the certificate of recognition this 23rd day of April 2019. Let's give Greer Development Corp a big round of applause. Can I hold one of them?
Well, I just want to say, she's not here, but thank you to Allison Rout. She's the one that actually pushed me to submit something to South Carolina's Liquor Relations Association. And I thought it was fitting to do the Greer Station gift guide. I feel that my job is best served when I'm helping the merchants of Greer, and I thought that would be a great way to highlight just some of the shop local items that we have in our group. And it's pretty exciting that it received the highest honor. And also, I have to do a side note, that it was pretty great that after announcing my award, there was an intermission. I had 3 people come up to me from Greenville that said, "We love Greer. It is amazing." So it's exciting to be like a Greer girl, and everybody just says high praise for Greer.
Thank you. Council, contained in your packet this evening are the departmental reports. You will find those for your information. As always, the administrator and department head will be glad to give you an update. Susan Howell joins us to give us an overview of our financial activity.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to present the financials as of March 31st, 2019. We'll start out with the general fund. We have a year-to-date revenue of $18,543,442. Our expenditures are 9% under budget at $17,187,886. You refer to our dashboard, you can see that we have a positive overall benchmark variance of $392,915. Our cash balance in the general fund is $17,658,036. Now, the hospitality fund has a year-to-date revenue of $1,689,553. The expenditures are $658,490 with a cash balance of $2,202,223. Lastly, the stormwater, the year-to-date revenue is $1,285,993. The expenditures are $210,066. And we have a cash balance in the stormwater account of $1,673,800.
Thank you. Council, questions? Comments? Thank you. We appreciate the update. He is ready to go. Long public hearing, wasn't it, Chief? You haven't had supper, have you? Council, it's our privilege to entertain department heads when it's time to give their annual reports, and Chief Dorian Flowers joins us this evening as the fire chief to give us his annual report. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Mayor, members of council, I appreciate it. It's a privilege to be before you tonight. Thank you for dropping the temperature a few degrees. I put this on way too early. Spend a few minutes tonight to share some of the highlights of the past year and also do a little bit of compare and contrast to some of the basic benchmarks that we share through the monthly reports, and you'll be able to see it year to year. So 2017 responses, we ran around 3,008 calls. That's around 61% of the overall call volume. I'm not going to go through each of these just in consideration of time, but I wanted to point that out, that the EMS and the rescue responses do continue to be about the same. This next year, 2018, which is what we're talking about, we did see increases in basically all of the different areas that we track. But you will also notice that that still will be approximately 60% of the overall call volume. That is EMS and rescue. So that includes, in addition to your medical calls, but also responding to traffic accidents, things like that. This next slide actually shows you 2016, 17, 18 side by side. So it does show some of the ups and downs, but you will notice that in each of those categories, we actually increase in call volume. The largest, obviously, is the medical area, medical and rescue. For our fire inspections and investigations, which falls under administration division, we had 2,273 total inspections, 2,247 violations found. We had 22 fire investigations conducted, and we did have, unfortunately, one fatal fire this year, 2018. Under the Code Enforcement Division, we have 160 certificates of occupancy issued, 252 commercial building permits, 261 life safety plan reviews, and fire permit fees, a little over $60,000 for the year. Some of the staff accomplishments. Lieutenant Colby Means graduated from the South Carolina Firefighter Association Leadership Institute. Randall Hipp graduated from the Leadership Greer program. Austin Blanchard and Macaulay Hanna finished and passed their paramedic certification, so we have 2 additional paramedics on staff now. We have 3, as a matter of information, we have 3 in paramedic program currently, so hopefully we'll be able to report a few more this next year. Scott Keeley passed his ICC Fire Marshal certification, and he is one of 217 worldwide that have achieved that recognition, so we're very proud of him. And finally, Josh Holzheimer was elected to the South Carolina State Firefighter Association Board. He'll serve in that for several years to come. So we're going to go into some of our accomplishments. I think that's probably where you guys appreciate the feedback the most. As some of you know, we did a bunk room renovation, and some of you have been in the station and seen that previously it used to be a much larger, wide open space, and everybody just slept in that one space. So this past year, 2018, we were fortunate enough that you supported us in renovating that area, and you'll see on the left-hand side what it used to look like. On the right-hand side was during construction, so that's showing some of the walls being framed up. And then finally, this is a quick view of what it looks like now. So now there are 7 additional individual rooms up there that give some privacy, but also still allow us to house our firefighters in a way that makes the response more effective, meaning we can separate by company, engine, rescue, ladder, what have you. Some of you are also aware that during 2018 we started the multi-jurisdictional fire dispatching with Bowling Springs and Taylors. You also know we already do some dispatch for Pell and Batesville as well, but this just added on to that, and that capacity has allowed us a lot more response resources when we have calls inside the city, and of course we reciprocate that outside the city. We also have converted over 100% to the 800 megahertz radio system. Some of you will remember that we had some serious concerns, us and the police department had some serious concerns about the VHF and the UHF systems that we were maintaining, and the redundancy or lack thereof, and this system allows us to do that. Again, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be able to move forward with that. Another big item with the implementation of the new CAD system, and I'll explain that a little bit more here in a minute, we were able to implement mobile data terminals. That allows us a direct connection within our response vehicles to the information that is contained in the CAD system. And it also allows us to dispatch the closest available unit that has the appropriate resources on that. So, for instance, if we have a fire truck that is returning from a medical call and it is closer to an accident, that truck would be dispatched because it's closer, physically closer. There's actually GPS units on top of the vehicles, and that transmits back to the CAD. The CAD sees that, says this vehicle meets the needs, the resources, and is closer we can respond from that location as opposed to a fire station that may be further away, so that reduces the overall response times. Now, the reason I said I'd give you a little bit more information about the CAD system, originally I was going to bring one of the MDTs in here tonight and do a live demo for you. However, planning not under my own control, but Travelers Rest and South Greenville Fire Departments as dispatch centers came online today. They were actually the last two agencies that were coming online. They were coming online today, and I did not want to take and risk messing any of that up and trying to do a live demo. So what I'm going to do is it's going to be a static demo, and I'm just going to show you a couple screenshots of kind of what the information we get. On this first screen, you'll see this is typically what the screens look like when we're riding around or if it's in the fire station. You'll see there that there is one instant on the top, and then down below there's pending calls. So as calls come into the CAD system, before they're even fully processed, they start popping up down there. So we can actually literally start seeing those calls before they've even been dispatched. In this case, there's no pending calls, but there is one for the jail for an unconscious and fainting subject. If we click on one of the buttons that gives us additional information, you can see there that it gives us a lot more information. Obviously, the location gives us all the notes in the bottom area down there. We can actually add notes to that. Dispatch can add notes to that, and since it's a medical call, EMS, if they update the call with additional information, it updates there as well. So we're constantly getting updates to that information. So for example, if we got dispatched to a cardiac arrest event, and they get an update that it's not truly a cardiac arrest, then they can update that information in the notes and we would see that. So that would just be one example of how that information would help us. There are several different screens there, different buttons, different tabs. Some of them give more information than others. This next tab here is actually showing you prior calls to that same location, and we have the ability to click on any one of those prior calls to determine what that call was about. Again, it's more information. So if we're responding to a location that we've responded to multiple times over and over, let's say it's an area we get a lot of false alarms, we'll be able to see that immediately that we're getting a lot of false alarms there, and we can go ahead and have that conversation with the tenant or the homeowner that, you know, they've had multiple false alarm calls there, and we need to figure out what's going on with that. The next one actually shows the caller information. And so that, again, if we need to call someone back, we can call them directly back. So a lot of times we'll get somebody that will make a phone call to 911, they'll say, I saw a wreck at such and such location, and we get there and we can't find anything. If we can't find anything, we need to be able to call them back. We can actually call them back directly and say, what did you see? Where was it at? What's the description of the vehicles? And they may have pulled over into a parking lot. And then we can, you know, determine that it's probably not a big deal, not too much to it. And we can check with them, make sure everything's okay, and clear up. And then finally, this one is actually the premise location information. So the one thing I want to point out here is you'll see a grayed out button that says pre-plans over to the left-hand side. And Mr. Airwood, you'll appreciate this. You know, we've always struggled in the fire service of getting our pre-plan information on our fire trucks. We don't have it for everything yet, but we're starting to build that out. This system will allow us to do that and will allow us to have that immediate access to that information. So it's not going to be like it has always been in the past. We go out and do pre-plans and we put it in a 3-ring binder, and we either have to put multiple 3-ring binders on the fire trucks, or they sit at the station where they do us no good. Finally, upcoming projects, facility study, as you know, is in progress. Thank you again for your support there. We are working on developing a replacement plan for our fire apparatus. As you know, we've just got approval to replace the ladder truck, but our current fleet, not including the ladder truck, is pushing 13 years old on average. So we will have to start looking at that and how we address that. Self-contained breathing apparatus, 2018 is 2 cycles. We're going to start looking for grants. The Assistance to Firefighters grant is one of them. We're going to start applying for those grants. We had to wait until they had gone through 2 NFPA cycles before we would actually qualify for that. And now we've met that, so we're going to start applying for those grants. And finally, the turnout gear replacement, that is in the current budget request for 2019. So that's the upcoming major projects. Obviously, we've got a bunch of smaller projects. And with that, we'll take any questions. I do have a copy of the printed version of the report that we'll be handing out to each of you at the end of the presentation for you to read, and there's a lot more detail in that than what was covered here.
Thank you, Chief. Council, the floor is open for questions or discussion.
Chief, you and I discussed it one time, and it came under the umbrella of open and honest and transparent government.
Yes, sir.
You're switching over to 800 megahertz, and then you're doing all this on these terminals where there's not a lot of voice communication.
Right.
Will the press and the public still be able to monitor with the appropriate type of
With the appropriate equipment, they can. Yes, sir. That 800 megahertz digital system, they'd have to have a digital scanner. In addition to that, we're also working on, we have a system we use, Active 911, it comes to our phones, and it helps us to have an additional method of alerting our own staff, but also there is a tool in there we're testing that we may be able to put the most recent calls on the website, and they can could monitor that as well. It'd be like a scrolling list of calls as they come up. It'd be some limited information because, some of it's protected by HIPAA, things like that. But we are looking at different ways to be able to be transparent and allow the information to be out.
Others? Chief, we certainly appreciate the update and the information. As you are aware that, one of the things that this council wanted to see was us progressively move to new technology and examining different ways of improving our skills as well as offering them to our citizens, and I think we're making good headway in that regard, and we thank you for the efforts that you and your staff have put into that.
Thank you, sir.
I like your report, shorts.
Council, it's time for the administrator's report. Mr. Driggers?
Thank you, sir. A couple of updates and reminders. Some of you may have had an opportunity to participate with our Parks and Rec program. This past weekend, we had our Egg-tastic egg hunt out at Century Park. Over 2,000 participants came out that morning. Very, very large turnout.
Yeah, I'm going to start charging some parking in my yard.
I'm telling you. They were everywhere.
Oh, yeah, they were in my yard.
They were looking for eggs. They were everywhere. But a great event. It's continued to grow every year. So kudos to our staff over at Parks and Rec, our event staff. It was a super, super event. We continue the opportunities for our community as we approach this coming weekend. Our International Festival is here at City Park on Saturday from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. We have 26 countries represented as part of our International Festival. It will be a wonderful opportunity to celebrate the diversity of our community. We certainly hope to see you here at the park on Saturday. Also, Saturday is an important day for our community because we're participating in our Spring Cleaning Day. We've been doing that annually, what we used to refer to as our Amnesty Day, which simply means that we take those things at the center that we would not normally pick up at the curb. So those can include things like pesticides, tires, batteries, paint, those types of things that we would not normally pick up at curbside. We will also have the shred truck will be there for our community this weekend as well, so we'll have a number of folks being able to use that. But that's taking place from 8 to 1 out at the recycling center, and that's our spring cleanup day. The following week, we have our largest festival of the year. Family Fest will be taking place on Friday and Saturday, May 3rd and 4th, in the downtown area. Obviously, because of some of the construction in the downtown area, you'll see some of that festival relocated here to City Park. We're excited to have more presence of that here on the grounds here at the complex, and we are anticipating a great turnout for that wonderful lineup for that event. Also, before your meeting date on May the 28th, we ask that you put on your calendar to plan to arrive a bit early that evening. We are hosting a reception honoring Skipper Burns upon his retirement, and we'll be doing that here in the lobby at City Hall from 4 until 6 prior to the meeting. And then, of course, during the meeting, we'll have an opportunity to recognize Mr. Burns' service to the city, presenting a gift to him upon his retirement. So we're looking forward to celebrating with him on that evening. Hope that you'll be able to join us. A couple of updates. Our streetscape project, our Synergy project, is moving along well. We are on schedule. You may have noticed, if you've been in the downtown area here the last day or so, all of the pavers for the street area of the 300 block have arrived, and we are installing those now. We've got about halfway up to about the halfway point. Today they're moving rapidly in getting those installed. It is our anticipation next week that we will be able to open the 300 block. It will have limited access as open because we still have Norfolk Southern rail line that is closed for construction by the railroad themselves. But we will open that area so that the barricades and the barriers are moved away, allowing folks to get in and to be able to move about in that section of the 300 block. We continue our work in the 200 block. Most of that work at this point is storm drainage, getting in a lot of that underground infrastructure in place, coordinating again with our partners over at CPW, making sure that we're getting sewer tie-ins, water line tie-ins, all that are taking place in the buildings as we continue to move up the street. We are on the west side of Trade Street, and we'll continue to do that work as we make the tie-in up to Victoria Street. And then we will move over and we'll start doing the storm drainage work on the east side as well, from the bottom moving back up, making those tie-ins. And so we'll be there for several more months on that 200 block of Trade Street. But again, we are on schedule and are moving well at a well pace on that. We are finalizing some of our design work with the parking garage project. I had an opportunity to meet with RBA Architects out of Charlotte. Last week we did that, a virtual meeting with them, reviewing our design plans, now moving more toward the civil drawings phase of that project. So we're getting the engineering completed. That is moving well and on schedule for us. We are coordinating that work along with the partners at Sycamore Investments, that is the developer of the hotel site. Our delay on that site is simply because work is continuing to take place. You may notice that there is work daily taking place there as CPW continues to make the tie-ins for water, sewer, gas, and electric. All of that area is going to underground utility. Primarily what will be most noticeable, obviously, will be that for the electric utility that's being installed in that area. I believe as of the end of business today, we have 3 of the Poinsett Street businesses that have been switched over from overhead utility to underground utility. We're making those switchovers as it is convenient for those businesses. Once that work is completed, they will withdraw from that site, and then the demolition contractor will mobilize onto that site. Their demolition contractor is the same contractor that will be doing their site work, so there'll be one mobilization. Once they're there, then we'll start to see the site prepared. Again, the demolition of the existing structures, the remaining structures that are there, and then they're moving straight into site prep as well. So that's moving along very, very well, and continuing to get good reports back on any of the civil engineering that's taking place on the site relative to soil borings, those types of things that we have to have. You can imagine the weight that a parking structure will have, and so we're having to do a lot of testing in that area to make sure that the soil is prepared for us to be able to start making those pours as we start that process. So those are some updates. Certainly available to provide any additional information, answer any questions you may have at this point.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Council, as we observed earlier this evening, we will have an upcoming spot open on the Board of Architectural Review. Ms. Hyatt's seat will that term expires on June the 30th, 2021 actually, but we certainly need to be thinking about someone to replace her on that board. I think we will find that difficult, but nevertheless, if you think of someone that might be qualified in terms of historic background, this is one of those boards that each person needs specific qualifications in. If you'll please just let Brandon McMahon or Kelly McCormick know for their information, we will compile a list of folks, hopefully to be able to bring back to council at some point in time to look at filling that seat. We'll move to items of new business this evening. The first item before us is the purchase approval request. This is seeking approval for the purchase of a public safety answering point, a PSAP, for the dispatch center. And Lieutenant Blackwell joins us this evening. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I hope to be brief. This is just a purchase request. We're requesting greater than $35,000 purchase, which requires your approval. So just a quick background. We've recognized the need in planning for this budget to upgrade the center for several different reasons. The furniture is old, literally falling apart. There's doors falling off the cabinets and things like that. And also the need to expand. We've added staff. We are at full capacity with the arrangement that we have now, so we needed to find a way to rearrange and add a fourth console to allow us, personnel, manpower additions in the future. So this is a blueprint of what the dispatch center will look like in the future. We invited multiple companies in and ended up with Zybex, and I think that they will do the best job for us. But this is the final blueprint of what the inside of the center will look like. There's going to be four dispatch consoles. This is an overhead shot, walls excluded, of what the furniture will look like and the storage included. And then a final picture there is just a single console, a single workstation. Each dispatcher will have their own workstation to work from. So that's a visual of what we're looking at to purchase. The final quote for the installation and setup and the furniture itself is $61,744.02. We have more than that already budgeted in the 2018 budget, so the money is there. They are a government contractor, so we are getting government pricing for this. Also, the state, South Carolina Code of Laws allows the E911 office to reimburse 80% of that. So approximately $49,395.22 will come back to us from this purchase. So ultimately, we will be paying $12,348.80 at the end. So that's pretty much it. I'm just requesting you approve. We move forward with this purchase.
Great. Council, any questions of the Lieutenant?
There's additional information. Both the Finance Department, as a matter of procurement procedure, and myself have reviewed the recommendation, and we support the recommendation to move forward with the purchase.
David's smile supported it as well, too. Council, we have a request from staff in the department to purchase a public safety answering point. Do I hear a motion to receive? So moved. Second. Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, in regards to ordinance number 13, 2019, this was an ordinance, thank you, Lieutenant, we appreciate it. This was an ordinance authorizing the closure and conveyance of a portion of a city-owned street. As you have heard, we have held a public meeting in that regard, and got feedback from the community surrounding that area. There is additional information, as I mentioned earlier, from the administrator, and I will ask him to bring us an update in that regard.
Thanks, sir. One of the things, I think someone made the comment just a moment ago relative to transparency. And one of the things that we certainly want to make sure as we move through this process is that we are, as we receive information through the public engagement process, through the public hearing this evening, the items that were presented tonight, we want to make sure that we have addressed each of those types of issues, so that if there are questions of you as we continue to move forward, there were a number of those things that were presented tonight, primarily in the area of traffic impact, safety, and the impact of industrial development adjacent to neighborhoods. We want to make sure that we have reviewed all of those impact items so that we are completely comprehensively looking at those. The other issue is that we have discovered that there is a need for an amendment to the text of the ordinance as it is presented in the ordinance tonight. It requires the annexation of roadway area, and we would need an amendment because we need to add some additional square footage that was just missed in the writing of the ordinance. Because of the impact of an ordinance like this, we believe that instead of making a verbal amendment to that ordinance, that we need to get that not only reviewed by our city attorney, but to actually assist us in that writing of this. And so I am respectfully asking that council consider holding this matter over until we've been able to address those issues, as well as get the amendment, the text amendment that would be necessary for consideration of a first reading of that ordinance.
Council, certainly we want to consider holding this matter over. I think it's appropriate at this point in time, if there are questions or comments that could be answered by the administrator at this point, would be appropriate to go ahead and have that discussion, and then I'll entertain a motion to hold first reading of ordinance number 13-2019 over until we have a new ordinance to consider.
Do we have a traffic count on that road?
That's one of the things that we've requested, some additional information from a traffic impact perspective, and we do not have that information yet. And I think it's important that we have that.
I think that it's important that also, we weren't able to respond to any issues tonight, but a lot of concern was about emergency response. I don't think we can speak for EMS, but for police and fire, we can. And they, our police and fire know they've done the studies and said there's no impact. So I don't know if we can just make sure it goes out in the press that kind of thing.
Yes.
They were making some points regarding the condition of the roads that would handle the traffic. McElrath, I believe, and then talking about the width of it. I think it's real, like Riley asked about the traffic count, because that is important. I mean, if that road is handling more traffic than we thought of, and they're getting sent down narrow roads, that's a consideration, at least for me.
And again, part of the reason that we're asking for some additional time is so that that information can be gathered.
Also, I'd like to know what the value of an acre of land is up there.
That can be determined fairly easily. Others?
Well, I'd just like to say that, like he says, that when they were here, we weren't able to respond to that. And I didn't like the fact that people would stand up and say that the deal was already done before we even debated or whatever. Because that's not the way we do business in the city of Greer. We're one of the very few cities that allow people that don't live in the city to come in and have their say. And we do that because we want to be transparent, And I don't know anything that we've ever done where it was already discussed and settled before it was brought to council. And I think that we've had vigorous debate on a lot of issues now, whether we don't always agree. But at least we're fair about it, and I just didn't like that, you know.
I was not aware that the neighborhood was so eager to be annexed into the city. So it may also provide us an opportunity to share how that can be accomplished.
Yes, I agree indeed. I'll entertain a motion to do first reading of ordinance number 13-2019 with the intent of holding this over until further notice.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we are in the process of approval for grant application recommendations. The Greer Accommodations Tax Committee met Thursday, April 18th, 2019 to discuss the applications received for grants for the state accommodations tax received for fiscal year June 30, 2018. The committee respectfully submits the attached recommendation for council's consideration and approval. Mr. Seifert joins us for this discussion. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As stated earlier, the committee did meet last week. Just to briefly remind you where these grant dollars are coming from, as individuals are staying in hotels and motels, campgrounds, if you will, any of those transient accommodations. As you're aware, there is the 10% South Carolina state tax. The hotels are collecting that tax and forwarding it to the Department of Revenue, and then they in turn disperse it back out to the cities and counties where those hotels reside. We were unable to get the committee together last year. This is intended to be an annual appropriation. We do have a 24-month window to make those distributions, so we're still within that 24-month window. So over the 2 years, the funds that have been forwarded to the city totals a little under $59,600. So the committee met, we took the applications over the 2-year period. We considered applications from the prior year as well as applications for the current year when we opened up the application period. The summary of the recommendations was included in your package. You will see that there are 3 recommended denials for funding. Those were the Greer Farmers Market for $5,000, Greer Station Association for $500, and the Foothills Philharmonic in the amount of $3,937.50. In respect to those denials, the committee felt that certain ones did not meet, like in particular the Greer Farmers Market, the way the application was written, did not fully meet the intent of the accommodations tax law as it is on state law books. So we go through this process. We'll be having those discussions with the Greer Farmers Market to help them improve their grant application process so that they can then come back and apply for the dollars when we reopen the application window. In regards to the Greer Station Association, it was for a specific event. Again, they felt it was a worthwhile project, so we're going back, having those discussions with the Greer Station Association to get a broader scope of their advertising campaign that they were wanting to do with that brochure. In addition to, they felt that $500 grant was really not enough for what they were wanting to accomplish, so really encouraging them to apply for more. And then lastly, with the Foothills Philharmonic, that was an application from last year, did not feel it was appropriate to be funding a program that has already expired. So those are the 3 recommended denials. There are 4 recommended approvals. One to the Foothills Philharmonic in the amount of $4,312. Greer Parks and Recreation for LED and outdoor displays at Center for the Arts in the amount of $4,500. Again, to the Greer Parks and Recreation for wayfinding signage at Center for the Arts in the amount of $12,387.48. And lastly, to the Greer Cultural Arts Council for advertising in the amount of $10,000. The committee is I'm bringing these to you on behalf of the committee to make that recommendation for the 3 denials and the 4 approvals. And if you approve these as recommended, you can see in your summary there, after these approvals from the original funding, just shy of $59,600, there will be remaining funds available for disbursement of $28,394. So if you approve this and that money is left over, we intend to open the application process this week, and that will be open for 2 to 3 weeks. We'll have to look at the language again to see the only time we need to keep it open. But we'll reopen that application window so that the Greer Farmers Market, Greer Station Association, and other entities that may be out in the community that may not necessarily be aware of these funds a month ago when we opened the application the first time, will allow them to then apply and request funding, grant funding out of this $28,300.
Thank you, sir. You've heard the recommendation from staff. I'll entertain a motion to receive for the purpose of discussion.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion or questions.
David, the Greer Farmers Market is held here. Who heads that up and who made the application?
Hold on one second. The original application was entered by Nicole Livingood. We were told at the meeting with some board members that are affiliated with the Greer Farmers Market that director has changed, but I don't know the lady's name that's in charge of it now.
So it's an independent group?
It is a group, yes, sir. They hold several sponsor several farmers markets in the upstate. Greer Farmers Market is just one of those.
Just as a matter of background information, as you may be aware, we've tried for a number of years with our event staff to host a farmers market. We've not really had that great of success, mainly because of access to vendors. The individuals that brought the farmers market to us is a nonprofit corporation. They do farmers markets in other communities, specifically Travelers Rest, Simpsonville, and Fountain Inn. The Partnership for Tomorrow seeded that project for the first year, last year, giving a sponsorship to them. I don't want to quote an amount because I'm not positive of the amount, but it was in the range of $5,000 to $10,000 to be able to for advertising of that market. Their primary expense is marketing. It is getting the word out that the market is open, and then they use their resources to solicit vendors who will come in and make obligation for the period of time. The Greer market was the longest running market in the upstate last year, and they did that intentionally to give a higher level of exposure. I haven't seen the schedule yet for the new year, but our internal review is that it was the best attended farmers market that has been hosted here at City Park, and we sponsor them by providing the space for that event as well. It was very successful for us as a community.
Released an RFP for contract for banking services on March 10th, 2019. The city received 4 responses to the RFP. These responses have been evaluated and staff is prepared to make a recommendation to council for awarding the contract this evening. On the advice of the staff and the city administrator, I believe this item would best be held over for executive session, and I believe our administrator concurs with that, and so I will entertain a motion that this be held over until information can be gathered in executive session. I'll also entertain a motion in that regard well, we won't have to do a motion in that regard. We'll simply hold it over until we've got more information in executive session. So I will entertain a motion to go into executive session regarding the contractual matter.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss a contractual matter pertaining to banking services as allowed by state statute section 30-4-70A2.
Thank you, sir. Comes as a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert? Yes. Mayor Danner?
Ms. Duncan and council, I'd like to recuse myself as I have a relationship with one of the banks that will be making a request for a proposal. I will not join you. I will recuse myself from both executive session and any action taken following that. Council, we stand in executive session.
So we just come out of the executive session where we just discussed the contractual matter. We taking no action. Do I hear a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Have a motion second. Ms. Duncan? I don't want to say Ms. Tammy.
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert? Yes.
Am I addressing mayor or mayor pro tem? Well, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the RFP as presented for Crestcom Bank.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
No.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert? Yes.
There being no,
5-1. 5-1, that motion passes.
there being no further items, this meeting stands adjourned.